Welcome to Cheat Sheet Tales, where secrets slip, lies unravel, and the truth always has a twist. Real stories, raw confessions, shocking betrayals. Drop a comment if you've ever caught a red flag too late. Now, let's get into today's tale. My wife discovered the photos from through a weekend I spent with another woman. She didn't yell. She just looked at me, her eyes red but dry. "You killed every promise we made," she said, her voice steady and cold. She turned and left without another word. But I knew Thessalon she left behind was only the beginning. I cheated on my wife. I lied to her over and over. When she found out, she didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She just walked away. We've been married 14 years. Helen and I met in college in Iowa City. I was average in every way. She wasn't. She had this calmness, this way of making people feel grounded just by being near them. I used to feel lucky every day. Thatch picked me. We got married in 2011, moved to Des Moines a couple years later, had Daniel, then Claire. I thought we were good. But somewhere along the way, I got bored. Not with her, not really, but with life. The routine. The way we talked only about bills, schedules, the kids. No more spontaneous kisses. No more late night talks. It felt like we were just roommates managing a small business called family. And then came Elise. I met her through a business connection on LinkedIn. She commented on a post I'm mad about a conference I was attending. We exchanged a few messages. At first it was just casual, but she was different. She was bold. She laughed at my jokes. She made me feel interesting again, like Eamon. It's not just a husband and dad who loads the dishwasher and mows the lawn. I escalated fast. We started texting outside work stuff. Then it got flirty, then dirty. I started deleting messages. I put her in my phone as Marcus Dev Team. It knew what I was doing. I told Helen I was going to Austin for a weekend work retreat. She didn't question it. I even made a fake calendar invite, just in case. She helped me pack, kissed me goodbye, said don't forget your allergy meds. I remember that part because it killed me. Later in Austin, I met up with Elise. We stayed at a hotel downtown. We went out drinking, took photos by the water. I was smiling in those pictures, full-on smiling, like I hadn't in years. There's one where Esh is kissing my cheek, and I'm grinning like an idiot. She took that one. Through whole time, I told myself it was just affling. I'd go home, forget it ever happened, be a better husband. It was Allie I clung to. When I got back, things felt weird. Helen didn't say anything. Butch looked at me different, just a little like she could see something was off. It treats to act normal, played with the kids, took Claire to soccer. I even brought flowers home one night. 5 days later, I walked into our bedroom. And saw her sitting on the bed. My phone in her hand. The screen lit up. I didn't even have to ask. I knew Elise had sent me a photo from Austin, a selfie I must have forgotten to delete. Helen looked up at me, her eyes wearied but dry. She wasn't crying, not anymore. She said, "You killed every promise we made. That's it." That's all she said. Then she stood up, walked past me, and left the room. She didn't slam the door. She didn't scream, but the silence effect came. After was worse than any yelling could have been. She slept in Thega's room that night and the night after. She started making arrangements the very next day. For what? I didn't know yet, but I could feel it. The cold had moved into the house. Everything felt wrong. I tried to talk to her. Chinley answered about the kids. Nothing else. Elise kept texting. I didn't reply. I'd screwed up my whole life for one weekend, and it was just the start. 3 days after, she found the photo. Helen didn't come home after work. It was a Thursday. Remember, because Daniel had soccer practice, and she always picked him up. I waited, thinking maybe traffic or something came up. But it got dark and still nothing. No text. A call. At 6:30, I got nervous and called her, straight to voicemail. I ended up leaving Claire with her neighbors so I could drive around. Checked her office parking lot. Nothing. Drove past her sister's place. Dark cheffinally walked through the door at 8:12p.m.com. No excuse. S. Kate, where were you? She looked at Mel like I wasn't even standing there. Thench walked past and said, I needed space. That was it. Over the next week, she became someone else. Still polite, still soft-spoken, but cold. Unreachable, like she was somewhere far away inside herself. I started losing sleep. I barely ate. The house got quieter and heavier. Theckids felt it too. Daniel asked if we were fighting. I said no. He didn't believe me. The worst came when she shuttled me to sleep on the couch. That was one. I knew she was done pretending. She stopped wearing her ring. Then, a week later, I made the dumbest move of all. It tried to get sympathy. I told her I wasn't, that I missed her, that it was just her own mistake. I cried, begged. She sat across from me in the kitchen and listened. When I finished, she said, "Yeah, we're sorry when you were with her." Couldn't argue with that. I didn't eventually, and then came the twist I didn't see coming. She said, "I saw your credit card statement too." I froze. I hadn't even thought about that. The hotel, the meals, the drinks, it was all on our joint card. I was so wrapped up in the secret, I forgot the obvious. She looked straight at me and said, "I called Elise." My heart stopped. She said, "You told her I was sick, that we were separated." You wanted to crawl out of my own skin. Helen didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She just told me that like she was reading through the report. She asked if I was okay. Hila, NH said, still calm. She apologized, Tome. She said she didn't know the truth. I believe her. I sat there in silence, then she said, "I made an appointment with a lawyer." That's when the panic re-elitted because it was real now. Not just awkward silences and sleeping on the couch. She was leaving the worst part. Stell hadn't told her the full truth. Because that weekend in Austin, it wasn't just Elise. There was more. There's something you should know, something I haven't admitted to anyone. Not even Helen. Elise wasn't the only woman I crossed a line with. Austin was the first time I physically cheated. But before that, there were others. Not sex, but still cheating. Emotional affairs, flirty conversations, secret drinks during business trips. Unknown night in Chicago last fall, where I kissed someone in a hotel bar. Just kisses, but it wasn't innocent. I never thought any of it would catch up to me. It told myself I was a good dad, in a descent span that I worked hard, that I deserved a little freedom, that it didn't mean anything. But now, sitting across from Helen, as she told me she contacted a lawyer, I knew that lie had eaten everything real in our marriage. I didn't tell her about the other women. I see who, not yet. I was already drowning, but I knew she would find out eventually. She was always good at uncovering the things I tried to hide 2 days later. I found out she talked to our son's school counselor, Daniel. It started shutting down in class, quiet, distracted. They thought he might be depressed. I hadn't even noticed it, Holland. Didn't tell them why, she just said things were tense at home. Then on a Friday night, I saw something that twisted the knife even deeper I was putting. I could clear to bed when I heard voices downstairs. This man's voice, I thought maybe it was her brother, or our neighbor bot. When I came down, I saw Helen at the door with someone I didn't know. A tall guy in a suit, looked like he was from her office. He handed her a folder, said, "Call if you have questions." Then he nodded at me without a smile and left. She closed the door and said that was my divorce lawyer. What? She hadn't hired him yet, but she wanted me to see what was coming. And then she dropped the real bomb. Oh, I already told my parents. I told them everything. Her parents live in Sioux City. We used to visit them every Thanksgiving. They adored me, or at least they used to. Her dad once told me I was the most trustworthy man he knew. Now they knew all of it, or at least the part she'd seen. I asked if she told the kids. She shook her head. Not yet, but soon. I won't lie to them. That night I sat in the car in the driveway until 3 o'clock a.m. Just sitting, couldn't go back inside. Couldn't sleep, couldn't think straight, because I knew this wasn't the end of it. There was still more she didn't know. I did if she found out about everything, the emotional affairs, the kiss in Chicago, the texts from women I met at conferences. It wouldn't just be divorce. It would be full destruction. And then just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Elise showed up at my office in person. Elise showing up at my office was the last crack before everything shattered. She came in like she owned the place, smiling like it was just another die, stood up from my desk. My stomach turning, she wore the same perfume she had in Austin. The scent hit me like a brick. "What the hell are you doing here?" I asked, barely keeping my voice down. I thought we should talk. She said, "You haven't answered my texts." I pulled her aside into the conference room and shut the door. "You can't be here." I said, "I told you this is over." She looked hurt for a second. Then her face changed. "She deserves to know everything," she said quietly. And that was it. She didn't yell. She didn't make a scene, but I knew that Elise wasn't going to stay quiet anymore. That night, Helen handed me a manila envelope. "Everything's in there," she said. "Papers, agreements, custody plan." I opened it and saw the line that made it all real: petition for dissolution of marriage. Allen wasn't bluffing. She was done. We sat at the table that night, both of us worn down, both quiet. She looked at me and asked, "Was there more?" I wanted to lie, God. I wanted to lie, but I didn't. He told her about the kiss in Chicago, the flirty drinks in Phoenix, the texts from women whose names I didn't even remember. I didn't cry this time. I didn't beg. She just listened. Her face didn't change. When I finished, she nodded once and said, "Thank you. I needed to hear it from you." Then she stood up and left the room. The silence after that was different. Not angry, just empty. A week later, she told the kids Daniel cried. He looked at me like I was someone he didn't know, someone he didn't want to know. "Claire, didn't Cressy just asked, are you going to stop being my daddy?" That one broke. May couldn't answer right away. Moved out 2 weeks later into a small apartment across Tone mattress on the floor, a couch I bought off Craigslist, half my clothes still in boxes. Daniel refused to visit at first. He told Helen he didn't want to stay at Dad's place. Claire came, but she was quiet. She used to talk nonstop, but now she just held her stuffed bunny and watched TV at work. Things got worse. Someone leaked the story. Maybe Elise, maybe a coworkery, don't know, but people started treating me different. Whispers in the hallway, fewer handshakes. I lost a promotion. I was in line for my boss pulled me aside one day and said, "Clean it up fast. This kind of distraction doesn't fly here. Clean it up." How do you clean up wreckage like this? I started therapy after I found myself staring at the ceiling for hours. Every night, unable to sleep, unable to eat. I lost weight. My hair started thinning from stress. My sister said I looked like a ghost. My parents didn't even call me for Christmas. Helen must have told them everything. Toey, don't blame her. Months passed. The divorce was finalized in March. He signed the papers alone in my apartment. It felt like the final nail in a coffin I built with my own hands. I still see the kids. We do weekends, holidays, but it's not the same. Daniel's still distant. He talks more to his Xbox than he does to May. Try to ask about school, soccer, anything, and I get one word answer. Sometimes nothing. Claire hugs me, but it feels careful, like she's protecting herself, like part of her is waiting for me to disappear. Tulin is doing better. She started smiling. Agani saw her at Claire's dance recital last month. She was talking with another dad. Laugh guy. Felt this strange mix of relief and gut-wrenching grief, because I know she's healing and I'm not part of that healing. This is what cheating really does. It doesn't just break a marriage, it breaks the memory of what the marriage used to bait, poisons the good moments. Sit rewrites the story your kids will tell about you when they're older. I thought I was just escaping stress. I thought I was chasing something harmless. What I really did was kill the only life that ever truly mattered. No one ever tells you that cheating doesn't just ruin your marriage. Ruins who you were in the eyes of the people who loved you most. And that's a punishment that never ends.